Hey, you. Yes, you're right there. Have you ever went into a gunfight full of confidence, slid out from behind a wall and straight up died, despite apparently having all the advantages? In CODM, this is actually quite a common appearance, and for many it can be a rather frustrating experience. More often than not, this can be attributed to the way you peek and angle. So today, I, your average CODM player, will be walking you guys through all the different ways to peek that I found effective through playing this game. There are two types of peeks: peeking for information and peeking to commit to a gunfight, and how you peek will depend on which one you intend to achieve. Information peeks are usually faster and leave less of you exposed, whereas peeking to commit to a fight can be a bit more risky and is better done when you already have a comprehensive information on where your enemies are. The first peek we will go through is the simplest: jiggle peeking. This is also the easiest one to learn as an information peek, and can be to gauge whether or not you should actually engage in a fight. Simply move your joystick left and right slightly and try to observe where enemies are. While jiggle peeking, unless you have cleared a line of fire already, try not to expose more than half of your body to said line of fire. Because CODM is a low TDK game, you can also shoot people while jiggle peeking, as this is very fast, and if your enemies don't have good crosser positioning, they most likely won't be able to react. It is also worth mentioning that because your character will appear bigger in the enemy's FOV the closer you are to the wall, you should jiggle peek as far away from the wall as possible so the enemies don't see you first. This isn't as much of an issue in CODM as it is in games like Valorant or CSGO because of its relatively worse tick rate, which enhances your desync advantage, but it will still give you an advantage regardless. The second peek is the launch slide peek. This utilizes one of the core fundamentals in the game, the slide. While running in the direction parallel to the cover you want to peek from, press the crouch button and immediately position your crosshair to where you know an enemy would be. This is the most common peek in the game because it not only reduces your hitbox by almost 50%, but also gives you enough momentum to be difficult to track. With some practice, a simple slide can become one of the deadliest weapons in your arsenal. However, because you're sliding out so far from cover, you're naturally exposing yourself to more than one line of fire, and it will take longer for you to get back to cover. So unless you want to be shot from 3 places at once and die, gather information first before you launch slide to make sure you minimize the risks of engaging in a 1v2 or 1v3. A variation of this is the short slide peek. Similar to the long slide peek, the difference here is that you will start out your slide not when you're about to leave cover, but far before that, so your slide ends just outside of the cover. While this doesn't give you an inherent speed advantage as per se, it's much safer as you're only peeking one line of fire at a time, and you still retain the hitbox decrease advantage. So if an enemy were to aim at your chest, you'd appear far below where they'd expect you to be, allowing you to fire first. The fourth peek we will go over is the jump peek. Like the long slide, the main point of jump peek is to commit to a gunfight, but juking your opponent's crosshair so that they will have to adjust to where they're aiming, when you already know exactly where you are. To do this, move your joystick parallel to the cover and press the jump button while exiting cover. Make sure to aim the moment you start jumping to negate any impacts that your gun's ADS speed will bring. From the enemy's perspective, you will appear above the crosshair and fall down at a rapid pace, meaning they will have to constantly track your position as you fly through the air. A tip is to pre-fire as you ADS, as this will allow you to shoot them faster without having to take another couple of milliseconds to react, since you already know where they are. You can now combine the slide peek with the jump peek to create a slide jump peek, which is the fifth type of peek that I'm going to be talking about. This allows you to launch yourself out of cover and mark Jesus and experience what it's like to be V1 from Ultra Kill. To do this, slide while behind cover, and when your velocity is at its maximum, press the jump button to leap out of cover and shoot in midair. If your opponents don't expect you to do this, it is among one of the most difficult to track. And while there is also the possibility of getting ganked by 5 SO14 while using this move, sometimes you can leap from one cover to another using this technique to prevent that from happening. Another variation of this is the dolphin jump, which simply means you slide out of cover and jump in the opposite direction of your slide, effectively juking the enemy's crosshair by tricking them to track to one side and moving in the other. Doing so quickly can be an effective way to gather information, as well as committing to a gunfight if you so wish. You'll see a lot of this in ranked play, and while it is one of the more difficult ones to get right, its skill ceiling is also among one of the highest. The seventh type of peeking I don't usually see anyone do, and it pains me because of how effective it can be. And for an assault rifle main like me, this is possibly the most unexpected ace in the hole there is. That is, of course, the prone peek. Best used with ARs, LMGs, and SMGs. To do this, simply move your joystick parallel to the cover you're peeking from and tap the prone button immediately while exiting cover. Ideally, you should position half your body behind cover while doing this, and since you're proning flat on the ground, you can effectively reduce your hitbox by 85 to 90%, as any player that tries to hit you above the legs will just flat out miss. I cannot emphasize how good this peek is, so you should definitely give it a go in your next match. Although the one problem with this is that once you're prone, it takes a bit of time to get back up, so if an enemy were to shoot you during this period, it would be very difficult for you to move away. Therefore, isolating 1v1s is key when prone peeking. And finally, what we should all realize is that all of these peeking strats do the same thing. They give you an advantage over your opponent in a gunfight by either collecting information, baiting crosshairs, or reducing your hitbox. Therefore, don't hesitate to think outside the box and never engage in a fair fight unless you have to. The game gave you concussion grenades for a reason. Again, I'm just a casual bozo trying to pass on what I've learned in gameplay. If you have any better ways to peek or disagreements or even what you'd like to see for the next video, please pop them in chat, I'd love to hear them. And with that, have a good day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you all next time.